Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Amy. I'm 21 years old. I'm an English teacher from Derby in the UK. I converted to Islam in February of this year, alhamdulillah. It started a few years ago when I visited Egypt for the first time. I was engaged to a Muslim man, and it was my first time in a Muslim country, and I was very intrigued about Islam because I didn't know anything about it. And I'm the kind of person, I hate to be ignorant about anything. So when I went home, I decided to read about Islam, not to convert, just to know about it. And I was so impressed by the rationality and the simplicity of it. I was never happy as a Christian. I never believed that Isa alayhi salam was my Lord. I always saw him as my prophet. And the fact that Islam says that you only worship your creator, it completely appealed to me. And when it says in the Quran to love and follow the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I couldn't help but fall in love with his beautiful character. The fact that this was a man who stood for justice for all people, Arab and non-Arab, black, white, women, children. I couldn't help but just fall in love with Islam. And Wallah, I was so close to converting, but various things happened in my life, and I had to leave my fiance. So for about a year I went away from Islam, but I felt a calling to come back. That one particular night I had a dream where I was back in Egypt, and I was just sitting in the mosque that I had visited, and I was sitting making dua. I woke up from that dream and I said to myself, Subhanallah, I need to pray salah. I went and prayed 2 rak'ah. I said, oh Allah, you know, if you want me to be a Muslim, then please make it easy for me. And at this time, I was still Sunni. I'd been told by my Sunni friends, don't go near the Shias. The Shias, they worship Ali alayhi salam. They do this, they do that. All this Wahhabi propaganda, which is completely false. So I never considered being Shia. But alhamdulillah, this one day I watched a lecture on YouTube, a Shia lecture, and I was so close to turning it off because I thought this is wrong, I shouldn't be watching this. But out of sheer curiosity, I watched it, and it completely changed me. The rationality of it, the simplicity of it, and the intellect was just so admirable. You know, I couldn't help but just be enthralled by it. And I watched more of these lectures. I read more about Shia Islam, and all my misconceptions just completely melted away. And learning about the Imams alayhim salam, you know, learning about Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, the fact that Allah prepared him from a young age to succeed the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, and learning about their lives and what the caliphs did to be with Fatima salamullah alayha, and what later they did to Imam Hussein alayhi salam at Karbala, I said to myself, how can I be hypocritical and say I love Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and love their killers? I just couldn't do that. I said no, I'm either with them or I'm with their enemies. And to me it was simple. I was always going to be with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So alhamdulillah, you know, Allah, one of his names is the bestower of honours. On the day he chose me to be a Muslim, he said it's not enough for Amy to be a Muslim. I want her to be a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And when I think about it, it blows my mind of how blessed I am to have found this path. Alhamdulillah, shukran lillah. You know, alhamdulillah, you know, when I sit and think of the problems that I face, really they are not problems in comparison to what some reverts have faced. That my family, alhamdulillah, you know, they have always been open-minded. In fact, they have always defended Muslims. When there have been people around us that have said Muslims are terrorists, they did 9/11, they did this, my parents have always said no, real Muslims aren't like that. So when I said to my mum and dad I want to be a Muslim, you know, they said just whatever makes you happy, Amy, you know, we just want you to be safe, we want you to be happy. And don't get me wrong, there has been tensions between me and my parents as such, but I just I just pray to Allah to keep me patient. And alhamdulillah, I feel like as the months go on, it's getting better and better. And with my friends, there were kind of two groups. I had the vast majority of my friends were absolutely brilliant, mashallah. Like, they don't treat me any differently now. They still love me for who I am. But then I had a lot of Christian friends that I made at university, and when they heard that I converted, it broke their hearts. And I actually had some of my friends come up to me in tears saying, how can you forsake Jesus? How can you do this? And it hurt me to see them like that. And even to this day, like, they try and persuade me to come back. And I just say to them, like, if you knew what I knew, if you could feel what I feel, like, honestly, you would hold on to it. Even if you were holding on to hot coal, you would still hold on to it. And if you really knew Jesus the way I've learned about Jesus now, you would know that Jesus would follow Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and that he would never forsake them. And Allah is the all-powerful. Sometimes we limit him, and Allah can do whatever he wants, kun fayakun. I just pray that he will open their hearts, because I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't have Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, who doesn't have Imam Hussein and Abul Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. When I think of the Amy before Islam, Amy was a very broken person. She had faced so many things. She had had so many people whom she had loved, and yet they were cruel to her. Amy was scared of the world. She was scared of failure. She had no self-esteem. And I look at myself now and I say, this Amy is brave. Because the Amy a few years ago, she never would have came to Iraq or any other foreign country by herself. Now I come here and I say, there is nothing to fear. Like, I'm not afraid of any person. Even though Daesh are in this country and they want my blood on their hands, I say, who cares? You're nothing special, Daesh. The only thing I fear is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The new Amy as well, she doesn't stand for injustice now. When someone tries to take my rights away from me now, I say no. I won't stand for that, because Bibi Fatima salam Allah alayha, she taught me to be brave. Bibi Zainab salam Allah alayha, she taught me to be brave. If they could stand up in the courts of tyrants and stand for their rights, then why can't I do that? And another thing about the old Amy as well, like, my whole goal in life was just to survive, just to get through the days. I didn't care about anybody else. I just cared about myself. Now, I'm so much more compassionate. I'm so much more emotional. Sometimes I sit and I watch the 6 o'clock news and I see everything that's happening in the world, and it brings tears to my eyes, because it's not just me anymore, it's everybody. And I look at myself and my body and how I've used my body over the years just to please myself, and it's only recently that I've realised that my body is not my own. My body is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serving the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. My body gets worth through singing their praises and cursing their killers. And inshallah, I just pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will continue to build me. Whatever blessings or hardships He gives me in my life, I just want Him to build me so that I may serve my Imam az-Zaman. May Allah hasten his reappearance. Because the greatest blessing that I could have is having a Muslim family to give to Imam az-Zaman. And when I have given them, for me to give myself to the Imam as well. And even if it means shedding my own blood. And I say this before witnesses. I don't say this so that people say, oh, mashallah, what a wonderful Muslim. No, I don't care what people think about me. I say this before witnesses so that if I go back on my promise to Imam Zaman, then all of you can testify against me on the Day of Judgment that I let my Imam down. And that is the most important thing to me. I think to me, to come to Iraq and not to be afraid. We hear so many stories about Daesh and our enemies killing us left, right and centre. But I say to my brothers and sisters in faith to not be afraid, because we are the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. We shouldn't be afraid of anyone. On the day of Saqifa, we had enemies and tyrants. All through history, we have had people who have hated us and tried to kill us, and yet we are more alive than ever. We should not be afraid of Daesh, because they're nothing special, nothing at all. They're just modern day Yazids, modern day Muawiyahs. Imam Hussein alayhi salam tells us that it is better to die on our feet than to live on our knees. Why should we be afraid of anyone?